there is a story about Jacob. And you know, Jacob was kind of what they would consider a dirty, rotten scoundrel a little bit. You know, he kind of stole his brother's birthright and did some things, and you know, he gets his brother's blessing or his inheritance.
Right.
And so his brother's pretty upset about this, and his brother's going to kill him. He vows, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
So Jacob gets up, and his mom says, you need to get out of here because your brother's going to kill you. And your dad's pretty upset too. So you need to go. So he gets up, and even though he's the rightful heir of everything his father has, he doesn't take anything of his father's. He leaves it all behind. He leaves it all. He goes to a place, and he don't even have a pillow to lay his head down, Scotty. Because it says he comes to a place, and he takes some rocks or some stones of that place, and he makes a pillow. And there he has a dream, and he begins to see the angels descending and ascending on this ladder. And you all probably know the story because it's a pretty good Sunday school story. But what I saw is in chapter 28 of the book of Genesis, in verse 20, Jacob vows a vow to the Lord. And he says, Lord, if you will keep me on this way that I go, you will give me, am I right? Yeah. You will keep me on this way that I go. You will give me bread to eat and raiment or clothing to put on. Then will I make you my God. Or that I come again to my father's house in peace. Then shall the Lord be my God. And he makes this vow to the Lord. Now he is supposed to be the rightful heir of everything his father has. But he's got up in the middle of the night and he's not taking anything with him. He just left. Doesn't even have a pillow to lay his head on. There's what's that saying? You don't have a pot to go to the bathroom in. You ain't got a window to throw it out of. Well, that's where he's at. He don't have any. Even though he's the rightful heir of everything his father has, he ain't got nothing. And he makes this vow to the Lord after this dream. He wakes up from this dream and he says, surely this is the place, the Lord was here all along and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And so he says, I'm going to make a vow here. Lord, if you give me bread to eat, clothing to put on, you keep me on my way and bring me back again to my father's house in peace, then will I make you my God. Yeah. Well, he gets all through, he ends up going to Laban's house and, he meets somebody who's just as big of a scoundrel as he is, kind of even better at it than he is. And he gets a couple things done to him there and he kind of learns a couple lessons and he comes back and he's on his way back to his father's house and he comes and he's waiting to meet his brother. And he wrestles with an angel, and you all know the story where he wrestles with the angel, and the angel touches the hollow of his thigh so that he walks funny. And why he's walking funny, and why it's important that angel had to touch him like that, it's because the whole thing that Jacob had vowed was that if you give me raiment to wear, bread to eat, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then will I make you my God. Well, God has given him great riches because he done spoiled half of Laban's house. Yeah. So he's given him the bread to wear. He's given him raiment to put on. And now he's bringing him back to his father's house, but he still thinks his brother's going to kill him. But see, God sometimes has to touch us to where we can't run from the destiny and purpose that's in our lives because we have to come to a place where he finally sees Esau coming, and Esau's coming with 400 men, and Jacob thinks for sure Esau's going to kill me, and I can't even run. Right. And so it says as Esau's coming, he's bowing the whole time, and the reason he's bowing is because he can't walk. And he's bowing. And when Esau finally gets up there, Esau asks him, and he says, what's all this stuff that I've met on the way? Because Jacob had sent a bunch of stuff to him. He said, this is all so that I might find grace in your sight. Esau falls on his brother's neck and hugs it. And he says, I don't need your stuff because the God has made me fruitful as well, and I don't need it. And when Jacob heard all this, he says, I want you to take it anyway, because when I looked on your face, it was like looking on the face of God. Yeah. But see, even more than just that vow that God brought him back to his father's house in peace so that he would be his God, See, there was something in Jacob when he made that vow that he was going to be the father of many nations. And in his vows, even we dwelt there in Christ. And so when he made that vow, there was something that we made a vow of as well. And that was, if you keep me on this way that I go, you give me bread to eat, you give me raiment to wear, and you bring me back to my Father's house in peace, then will I make you my God. Can I tell you, when Jesus comes on the scene, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I'm going to keep you on your way. He says, I'm the bread that fell from heaven. I am the bread of life. I am the bread that you're asking me for. I have clothed you in righteousness so that I'm giving you raiment to put on. He's fulfilling the vow. That's right. And when he finally gets up on the day of his resurrection, Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb. Yeah. And she says, he begins to talk to her, and she turns around and said, oh, I'm sorry, sir. I thought you were the gardener. Yeah. But he begins to tell her something, and when she recognized who he was, he says, don't touch me yet, for I've not yet ascended unto the Father. Think about it. Yeah. But I want you to do something for me, Mary, because I'm about to fulfill all of the vow that Jacob just made. You tell my disciples, I go to my father and their father's house. Tell them I just brought them back to their father's house in peace. I go to their father and my father's house. That's right. And you tell them this also, because they're not going to even have to keep the other part of the vow. Yeah. I'm keeping it as well. Right. You tell them, I go to my God and your God's house. Right. See, he done brought us back to the Father's. He was the bread. He was the way. He was the raiment that we're clothed in. He's every part of the vow that Jacob asked of to make him his God. Our whole heart in all of it was to make him our God. But we thought we weren't good enough. But if he would just give us some things to make us feel like we were good enough or worthy enough to come back to his house in peace and not have to worry if he was going to take my life, then I can maybe at least make him my God. So Jesus comes on the scene. He fulfills the vow. He becomes the way. He becomes the bread. He becomes our garment of righteousness. And then he begins to say, you tell my disciples, you tell my people, I go to my Father and your Father's house. I've just brought you back in peace. There is no animosity here. He's not mad at you, as Pastor's been saying. I brought you back to Father's house in peace. And so you can now say that it's my God and your God. Amen. See, the whole thing of getting us back is we've always been taught we had to try to do this. We had to make it happen. But see, in everything, every vow, every promise, everything that we ever thought we had to fulfill, Jesus came on the scene and says, you can't do it, but I can. I fulfill every part of the vow. So all you have to say is, I can rest here. I've got a pillow now that I can lay my head on. I'm not having to make it out of old rocks and hard places. And I might have left some things behind, but see, I end up getting more in the end. Esau wasn't angry with Jacob in the end because Esau never lost anything. When Jacob fled, he left all his father's possessions behind. And not only did he get his father's possessions, Jacob gave him more. See, we think sometimes because we were taught in religion that we were in Adam and we're just a dog returning to its vomit and we were just rolling in the dust and there's all this, we had to give up everything that we were. But can I tell you, Jesus never took anything from you. No, he left all of Adam's possessions to you, and when he comes on the scene, he gives you more. And when he looks into our eyes, he says, when I looked into your eyes, it was like looking into the face of God. That's good stuff. Yes, sir. See, this word, this message, or this word of faith that we preach is not just something I heard my father say. That's right. It was my very deliverance. Yeah. That when God began to speak this to me, I didn't have to get delivered from drugs. I didn't have to get delivered from alcohol. I didn't have to get delivered from all kinds of things what I had to get delivered from was church. Because I had grew up in church my whole life, and I knew how to act. I knew how to do church because I grew up there. I knew what you did when you came in. I knew how to raise my hand just right at the right times, make it look holy. I knew how to make the sounds and even preach to make it sound holy. But when God truly showed me this word of faith, it didn't become an act anymore, because I had acted for a long time and it never fulfilled me. I had fled my father's house and had nothing to lay my head on. I had nothing. I was out of my father's house. Even naturally, I was out of his house and felt like I had nothing because people were coming against me. But I began to lay my head on something, and I began to make a vow. And in the midst of making a vow, I realized I couldn't keep the vow, but he did.